Hey Canelo, if the WBC asks you to either fight Golovkin next or give up the belt, what do?
Ready.
You ready? So we're gonna see Golovkin in May or what?
He's ready. You ready?
There it is. Dante's Boxing Nation, what's going on, guys? You know, I always say one of the most dangerous weapons today is a microphone and a camera. That can be your worst enemy. Case in point, I did, or maybe I should say we as the media, we did a roundtable interview with Oscar Dela Hoya, I don't know, maybe like 6 months before the Mayweather versus Pacquiao fight. I know it was way before the Mayweather-Pacquiao fight was even talked about, was even mentioned. At this point, no one really knew if the fight was going to happen for sure. So we do a roundtable with Oscar De La Hoya and some of the people from the media. And let me tell you, for some of you guys that don't know, when I talk about decafs, some of these people in the media are some of the biggest decafs you will ever meet. I mean, if you heard some of these people talk, you would never guess that they cover boxing for a living. You would assume that they would probably be one of those casual fans that only knows like the big names like Sugar Ray Leonard, Mike Tyson, Oscar De La Hoya or something like that, right? So you got some of these decafs that are asking Oscar De La Hoya questions. Now, and it gets really interesting because the decaf reporter is basically trying to blame everything on Floyd Mayweather, right? This reporter is accusing Floyd Mayweather of being so afraid to lose. And he's also saying this because, once again, he's insinuating that Floyd Mayweather won't fight Pacquiao, okay? So, matter of fact, let me go ahead and play this clip right now. Go ahead and check it out.
Nobody worried about losing. And we've got Mayweather seemingly obsessed with this unbeaten record. And it seems to become a crime almost to lose a fight. What's happened with that and what's your thoughts on that?
Now, let me stop it right there for just a second. Do you guys notice how this guy said, basically, since Floyd Mayweather came along, fighters are so afraid to lose. It's like it's almost a crime to lose now since Floyd Mayweather came along. Let me say this. First of all, this reporter was old enough to be my father, okay? Much older than me. How is it you've been a reporter for so long that fighters been afraid to lose, or at least trying to protect their winning streak? That goes all the way back to the beginning of the sport. You telling me you didn't know that back in 1908 you had Jack Johnson who was chasing the heavyweight champion Tommy Burns around the world for 2 years? He was stalking the man. And Tommy Burns refused to fight Jack Johnson. Matter of fact, Tommy Burns, he tried to ask for a ridiculous amount of money to fight the challenger Jack Johnson. But to Tommy Burns' surprise, after 2 years of avoiding Jack Johnson, a promoter came along and he said, "I'll pay you the money that you're asking for." This is how bad the public wanted to see Tommy Burns fight the #1 challenger, Jack Johnson. So once again, fighters not wanting to lose and almost feeling like it's a crime to lose to someone, that shit goes all the way back to the beginning of the sport. Just like a fighter asking for a ridiculous amount of money, saying, "Oh yeah, I'll fight him if you give me $1 zillion or whatever," right? Same thing, like with Billy Joe Saunders. He just recently said, "I'll fight Gennady Golovkin for 4 million pounds," which I've heard that actually translates to $6 million when it comes to US currency. Regardless if that's accurate or not, 4 million, 6 million, it's all the same damn thing. It means the man doesn't want to fight. This is what the heavyweight champion Tommy Burns did with Jack Johnson. He asked for an unbelievable amount of money and he thought that no one would ever come up with the money. But to his surprise, like I said before, there was a promoter that came out of nowhere and he put the money up for the fight. So Tommy Burns, he had to take the fight. And in the process, he got knocked the fuck out in the 14th round. And there was a new heavyweight champion named Jack Johnson. Anyway, let's get back to this clip. I want you guys to pay attention to how Oscar De La Hoya answers this decaf's question. Because what he says is pretty interesting when you consider the fact that Oscar De La Hoya is Canelo Alvarez's promoter. Let's roll the clip.
Well, that's where I'm a bit confused. It's like it's there's no shame in losing. The very best have lost. The very best. And when I talk about the very best, I'm thinking about Muhammad Ali. I'm thinking about Sugar Ray Robinson and Julio Cesar Chavez. Like those types, everybody loses. And when everybody loses, you see great fights, you see action-packed fights, you see excitement, you see, worrying about a record doesn't do good to anybody.
Couldn't you argue?
Including the person himself.
Well, because it doesn't do good, including the person himself, because, you're going to be taken care of. You're going to do whatever possible you can to protect that record. And what happens then? You take no risk, or you pick and choose, or so. That's why I say, boxing must go back to the root of the sport, and that's taking risks, fighting the very best, and there's no shame in losing.
Now, did you guys hear that? Did you guys hear everything that Oscar De La Hoya just said right there? There is no shame in losing. Even the greats have lost. It is nothing wrong with losing. Then he even went further and he said, worrying about your record, it does no good for that fighter. Then he starts talking about, you're just going to start picking and choosing who you fight. So the question is the obvious question. Why is it Canelo Alvarez, who is the middleweight champion of the world, not fighting against the middleweight mandatory Gennady Golovkin? Why is he not fighting him right now? If there's no shame in losing. You got nothing to lose, right? According to Canelo's own promoter, all the greats lose. And like Oscar said, hell, if you lose, we see a great fight. This is what Oscar De La Hoya is saying. So why is Canelo not fighting Gennady Golovkin next? But see, it goes further than just Golovkin. It doesn't even have to be Gennady Golovkin. Canelo Alvarez, who is fighting at 155, which might as well pretty much be 154, because we already know any fighter at 154 would have no problem moving up 1 pound to fight Canelo Alvarez. Shit, they probably wouldn't even mind just coming in at the 154 limit and letting Canelo come in at whatever weight he wants to come in. But the point that I'm making is, if there's no shame in Canelo losing, right? If all the greats lose and, there's nothing wrong with losing. And Oscar De La Hoya, according to him, he doesn't want to see fighters pick and choose their opponent. When you look at the 154-pound division, that is one of the most stacked divisions. You have the best fighter in that division, which is Demetrius Andrade. You have Jamal Charlo. You have Jamal Charlo. You have Chris Pearson, who just lost to a very good fighter by the name of Eric Walker. You have both of those fighters, right? You got all of this talent at 154, and yet Canelo and Oscar De La Hoya, they're talking about Canelo possibly fighting against Gabe Rosado next, him possibly fighting against Amir Khan next. isn't it crazy that after I just played that clip, if you listen to everything that Oscar De La Hoya said, how can Oscar De La Hoya tell the public that he would love to match up Canelo Alvarez versus Amir Khan next? This is what Oscar De La Hoya said. A man that says, it does no good for the fighter. In other words, he's saying that makes the fighter look bad. If you're sitting over here just worried about your record, worried about protecting your record, right? I mean, because you guys have to understand something. Canelo's in a good position because when he lost to Floyd Mayweather is so damn good that people don't even really look at that as, a regular loss. That's like a special type loss where, some people almost look at, a lot of people still look at Canelo as pretty much still been undefeated. Because see, it's a big difference if Canelo loses to the best fighter of our generation as opposed to him just losing to some young undefeated lion like a Demetrius Andrade, like a Jamal Charlo, right? Or if he were to get knocked out by a Gennady Golovkin, that would be a different type of loss, right? So I think it's ridiculous when you have a promoter saying something like this and completely contradicting himself when it comes to protecting his fighter. Something else, speaking of protecting fighters, I want you guys to also notice this. Do you guys notice Oscar De La Hoya, he's only protecting Canelo Alvarez. When it comes to his heavyweight fighter, Luis Ortiz, Oscar De La Hoya was ready to throw Luis Ortiz in there with the biggest and baddest lions in the division, right? Oscar's not moving him up slow at all. You have other heavyweights like Andy Ruiz, Joseph Parker. Those guys are being moved up super slow. Luis Ortiz, he was trying to fight Bermane Stiverne like 6-8 months ago. He was supposed to fight on the Golovkin undercard, but Bermane Stiverne actually pulled out of that fight. Then he went after Brian Jennings. Now he wants the heavyweight champion of the world. Okay? The point that I'm making is, I believe that Oscar De La Hoya, he truly believes deep down, of course he's not going to tell the public this, he doesn't have the confidence in Canelo Alvarez's skills. I truly believe that Oscar De La Hoya, he feels there are some people that he promotes, some fighters I should say, that he believes is not as talented as they need to be. And he has to hold their hands when he walks them across the street. Right? When it comes to Luis Ortiz, he lets him run across the street on his own. He got to hold Canelo Alvarez's hand. If it wasn't for the media putting so much pressure on Canelo to step up and fight against Golovkin, I think we will be probably waiting a good 2 or 3 years before they will fight. Matter of fact, Oscar had even said that. Before the Cotto fight, Oscar said that on numerous occasions. Oscar De La Hoya, he said that, that's a fight that needs to marinate for a good 2 years, right? Once again, I want you guys to notice the pattern, because it's not just Canelo. Recently, Billy Joe Saunders, who just beat Andy Lee and won a title, he said the same thing when it came to Golovkin. He said, I won't be ready for Golovkin for at least another 18 months, right? So he's saying the same thing that Oscar De La Hoya was basically saying about Canelo versus Golovkin. Oh, let it marinate for a good 2 years. And guess what? When Andre Ward's people reached out to Golovkin's people, when they called them directly on the phone, they said the same thing about Andre Ward. Oh, we're going a different direction and we're not really interested in that fight, maybe in another 2 years or so. You see the pattern? So anyway, going back to this interview that Oscar De La Hoya did, this is the part of the interview where Oscar, he starts talking about when he was boxing, when he was in his prime, and how he fought the best. Let's go ahead and roll this clip.
You all wanted to do that, didn't you? You know, it was a matter of pride that you fought them. You know, the other guys in your division at that time.
Yeah, well, I never, look, if I did lose, then I fought against a great fighter. I lost against somebody that deserved to beat me. And I understood that, you know, it's okay.
Yeah.
As long as I fought, as long as I gave it my all.
Is that
Oscar-
Oscar, in boxing, I mean, to really be great, you have to prove how you deal with the adversity of defeat.
Well, look, I mean, what I've learned over a period of time recently is that I've made a lot of decisions in my life based on fear, and fear has dictated my life for a while. If you can find a way to overcome that and make yourself believe that, you know what, if I take this chance, you know, I don't have to be scared. I don't have to run away from fear. What if I embrace it? You know, it's like I'm afraid to lose. I'm afraid to lose that zero. Go ahead and embrace it. It's okay. Face it, you know?
Oscar, if Floyd Mayweather fights Manny Pacquiao, will people still say he's worried about his record?
No. Fighting Manny Pacquiao will just erase any doubt that anybody might have about Floyd.
Now, why does it sound like right there, Oscar De La Hoya was talking to Canelo Alvarez? Because everything he just said in that interview, he should be saying to Canelo. Now, I know some of you fans are going to say, hey, well, it's not Canelo's fault. You know, it's Oscar De La Hoya. He's the promoter. He chooses who Canelo's going to fight. Nah, that's bullshit. Because when Canelo Alvarez decided to fight Edislani Lara, Oscar De La Hoya, he said it on record, Oscar didn't want that fight. It was Canelo who said he wanted the fight. Oscar said that was too dangerous of a fight, and he didn't want it. Okay? So we know that if Canelo really wanted to fight Golovkin, he could call up Oscar and say, make the damn fight. I mean, just remember, according to the WBC rules, Canelo was supposed to be fighting Golovkin in his very next fight, or he would get stripped for the belt. So if Canelo really wanted to, he could have signed a deal to fight against Gennady Golovkin in 2016 in May, but he decided not to. I keep telling you guys this, and I'm going to keep saying it. Moving up in weight and fighting a guy who's on your level, who's just as big as you are, who's just as strong as you are, maybe even stronger. When you beat a guy like that, that is what separates a good fighter from a great fighter, or at least a special fighter, right? We know that when it comes to Andre Ward, he's attempting to do that in 2016 when he goes against a very, very tough, much bigger Sergey Kovalev. We've seen Manny Pacquiao do this. We've seen Floyd Mayweather do this. We've seen Guillermo Rigondeaux do this. Fighters like Floyd Mayweather, he's made a career at the welterweight division fighting guys that are 15 to 20 pounds bigger than him. In some cases, damn near 14 years younger than him and undefeated. Can Canelo do stuff like that? We know Canelo could do real good against fighters smaller than him. We've seen that in the Cotto fight, right? We've seen that in other fights where he had a power or a size advantage. But how are you going to do with someone your own size? That's what we want to see. That's all I got for now. I'm on to the next one.